Garron, what's cracking, man?
What's going on, guys?
All right, guys, this one's going to be the toughest interview I've ever done because there's a part of me that hurts. It hurts real bad in my heart.
Go
I
ahead
met
and tell him, Paul.
I met Garron through social media. He reached out to me asking about FFL. He was working in solar, and as soon as I met him, I knew this guy was going to be phenomenal. The way he carried himself, the way he talked, all he ever talked about was goals, focus, and what he had to do to get there. So he asked a lot of questions. And so I was like, man, I talked to Isaiah Tatum. I was like, this dude, Garron, he's going to be good. Like, we should recruit him. And so I kept talking to Garron, and Garron decided to go with another team, but it turned out really good for him. And I'm really happy for him. I'm actually really excited for this guy. He started in August. From August to December, he wrote issue pay $247,000 as a rookie. So he came in and he's just crushing it. And I saw him at convention, and I had to grovel at his feet just to get him to come here. Because he's writing so much business, he doesn't have a whole lot of time. But he's going to sit here. He's going to talk to us a little bit about a few things. Can you tell everybody, first and foremost, what got you excited about sales? Why did you get into solar? Why did you get into sales?
Yeah, for sure. So I was in college. I was a junior sitting in my apartment. I had been a big partier. Y'all excuse my voice. I'm still getting over the flu. I'd been a big partier freshman, sophomore year, like a lot of people. Did the whole fraternity thing. But I wasn't really like happy with myself. I'd always been interested in like people who not just make a lot of money, but the way people carry themselves. That sticks out to me a ton. So even as a little kid, I've always been curious. I'm like, I want to be like that guy. And so there was a time where I was sitting in my apartment. I'll never forget it. I was doing schoolwork. I was like, you know what? I got to figure out what I can do this summer to where I can learn the most valuable skill sets that's going to take me to a place that's a lot further than just working a corporate job. I know I'm going to be taking on a lot of risk living that life, but I want to do it. I want to go after whatever that thing would be. All the books I started reading, all the podcasts I started listening to, the rich people, successful people that I started studying, they said the most important things you can ever do is learning the art of persuasion and the art of sales. Three things that I've always heard that everybody needs to experience at some point in their life. And so I landed, long story short, a door-to-door job. I had no idea what the heck I was doing, but it was solar. Cool, I'll sell it. I had a guy out in Charleston, South Carolina. He had a nice boat, driving nice cars. I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in his lifestyle and how he's creating that for his family. And so I went out, busted my butt doing door-to-door for 3.5 months, made a ton of money. That turned into about 3 years of door-to-door sales, of me building teams and me, moving around the country doing blitzes is what we called it, where we go target certain areas for 2-3 weeks and then we'll pop out to another town. And that's kind of what led me to insurance.
It's funny you say that because you talked about blitzes, and it just struck in my head. We have so many people on our team. So we used to do that too in insurance. We used to go to the homes. And then when COVID happened, we flipped the switch, and started doing virtual on Zoom. And then now most of us are doing tele sales only, right? And there's a lot of people in this room that have never done in-home before. So it's kind of cool to see, what the difference is. And we've seen a lot of translation of people that, did blitzes or in-home and become very successful in the telesales side of things. So kind of segueing into that, what would you say why you wanted to get out of solar if you were making such good money and then come into life insurance?
Yeah, it's a great question. And people would tell me I was crazy coming from solar. Just being transparent with you guys, I was a college kid making over $200,000 a year, junior and senior year, which is insane. So when I was telling people, even my parents, like, I'm gonna switch over and do this insurance thing, people definitely gave me kind of a weird look. Like, what are you doing? You got a big team. You're crushing it. You're making more and more money every year. I was good at it. I knew exactly what I needed to do each week and each month to create a nice set of income there for a 21, 22-year-old. But it was more than just money. Eventually, like, no matter how much money you're making, and I can only say this from like the $40,000 to $50,000 a month income level, because I haven't ever done more than that in a month, that eventually becomes numb. It can't just be about the money. And so I knew that it has to come down to leverage. But insurance was the answer for me, because I knew that I would not only be able to get more leverage. I talked to so many people, including Paul, And it helped kind of open my mind up and realize, okay, what can this look like 5 years in? Am I interested in their lifestyle that they've created? And I certainly was. And so that's one answer that I needed. And then it came down to leverage, how much I can put in and what I'm getting out. And so I knew that even if insurance didn't bring me in as much leverage right this second, as far as income, I knew if I could focus on something for an extended period of time, that will unlock multiples of leverage in the future, which will then allow me to get what I wanted, which is time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom.
I mean, I think you said a lot there.
Yeah.
As far as, commitment, I think that's the biggest piece right there, really jumping in and being obsessed. And a lot of these people here have heard me bring on people outside the insurance agency that are successful in some other industry.
Yeah.
Just kind of talking about the same core formula to be successful. And I think you hit it on the head right there. One of the things I think a lot of people want to know is, Garron, how did you come in? I think you said your first month you wrote 28 and your second month you wrote like 80,000, right?
Yeah, I did 28,000 my first month. Second month, I learned that I was able to delegate certain things, which I'll talk about. And I did 89,000 my second month, which is still my personal best.
So let's start with the first month. What type of leads were you running? Were they the same as the second?
Yeah, so the first month when I came in, I did basically, I was dialing, I don't know the names of them, but they're $1 and they're $4 off the ILC. I think it's golds. Basically, I just wanted to learn how to run presentations, how to get used to the process, how to navigate around. And when I'm going to America, AIG, Prosperity, how the heck can I be quick with them? Because the only way you're going to be quick with them, they don't have demo apps, I don't think, on Prosperity and AIG. So I got really fast with America doing demo apps. But I wanted to know if I have somebody on the call that they're open to doing an application, I want to be efficient. I want it to seem effortless on my end. Only way to do that is go through a lot of applications, which means I need to pick up the phone. And so I started just dialing golds. The first half of the month, I started hand dialing ARIA leads as well. So I was doing 3-month golds. They're a little more aged, but I would dial all day, 400 calls minimum. And I knew that I asked myself, what are the top producers doing? And I went to the top producers and said, what are you guys doing in a day? How many calls are you making? What leads are you doing? And I said, okay, I need to, whatever the response is, I told myself, I need to increase my actions and effort and do even more than them. I need to be training, dialing more than them, and then training again at the end of the day and just getting this thing down because I want to compress time. If it took them 3 months to write 40,000 or 50,000, how can I double that and write 80,000? We all have the same resources. How can I do that in half the amount of time that they did? And I did exactly that by just taking just massive action, becoming obsessed, asking so many questions where I feel like I was bothering people. But I told myself, nobody can ever blame me for trying to get better. And so I had to kind of swallow the ego pill and just ask everything I possibly could.
So we got that. You asked a bunch of questions, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're learning a lot. You're dialing a lot. Did you notice an increase in spending on leads between month 1 and month 2 when you wrote 80?
Yep. So I definitely increased my lead spend. I changed up my lead source a little bit, and I also got a dialer. And so I started implementing Ethos. I only did a little bit of $4 on the ILC, mainly Ethos. And so I had my dialer dialing about 30 leads per day. I'd buy her 30 ARIA Gold leads every single day, 5 days a week. So 150 a week. And I had her setting me up mortgage protection appointments. And so I'd be running mortgage appointments, my own Ethos appointments, and then I supplemented with the gold, $4 golds. And I spent 15 grand, 15,120. But if you spend that and you're IPing, 89K, that's a very profitable month. Most of my business, I have about 88% persistency with every single carrier that I write on average, which is really solid.
Yeah, Garron, so we hear a lot, spend more, make more, these types of things. But I want to kind of dive in, like, what made you decide to get a dialer? How did you find a dialer? And how did you train the dialer?
Right. The dialers aren't very expensive when you really run the numbers. And I was like, that is true leverage right there. Like, how can I outsource my time? Because I can only put in so much time throughout the day when I'm running appointments and dialing. Okay. And so how can it's more volume for dialers too. So what can I do to leverage out and delegate that to where I'm getting more output with the same amount of effort? And so that's what I really came down to getting a dialer, someone actually dialing and setting me appointments people don't take dialers serious enough. You got to train them like they're one of your agents. You can't just hire them and then expect them to just be booking you all these appointments. And so I was like, all right, well, how can I teach them like they're one of my agents? I was having daily calls with them every morning. I was training them like, hey, no, your pronunciation, that sucks with that word. Like, let's work on it again. And I was having them like speak and say out loud in the Zoom when we were sitting here training, making sure that they're saying certain things, certain ways. I was actually explaining loans to them. I was explaining what PMI is, private mortgage insurance, and why that is different than what mortgage protection is, paying off a loan if a family member passes away. And so I was really trying to just teach these people like the concept. So the more they can understand it, the better they can naturally handle objection.
And then kind of segueing into these Ethos leads, did you change your script up? What was the difference between, let's say, a mortgage protection versus this Ethos lead?
Yeah, so I have a very specific intro that I can actually do with you live here that I use.
Let's do it. But first, let's kind of set up what the Ethos lead is so everybody knows what it is and what exactly it is you're selling to them. Is it final expense, mortgage protection, IUL? What is it?
Yeah, so Ethos, it's the carrier Ethos is what these people are doing is they're starting an online application. And a lot of times, I don't know if you guys have ever actually tried to fill out an application yourself, but it'll give you a quote up front. Once you start getting through the application, the price jumps up. Once they enter their social, based on the medical history, the price will skyrocket majority of the time. And also just Ethos in general, we all have carriers that we have access to that are absolutely cheaper than Ethos. People just don't know that, right? And so what happens is they'll see the price jump up, they'll hear about Ethos on a radio show, they'll do their application, they'll think that they have some great rate that they're going to be able to lock in. Next thing they know, it's skyrocketed from 120 to 180. And they're like, oh, screw this, or 220. And so that's when it becomes a lead, and you can buy it off the market or off the Integrity Lead Center. And that's when we're calling basically these people who either haven't completely filled it out because of pricing, or they just ran out of time. Could be product. Most of these leads are looking for term. They're looking for whole. It just depends, but they're not really looking for IULs. It's usually term whole life products. Majority, I would say, my clients that I sign up are going to be looking for just a term. It's 45 to 55, 60-ish range. They have money. They're not broke. So it's a high quality, high intent lead, but you got to be gritty on the phones with these people. You got to know what you're doing. And when you first talk to them, setting up the appointment is everything with Ethos, and building a ton of value around what you're able to do for them, which I'll show you guys how I do that. And then also credibility is huge.
Perfect, man. Go ahead, show us.
Yeah, so like when I call, I'll say, hey, Paul?
Yep.
Hey, Paul, this is Garron. I'm just giving you a quick call about that Ethos life insurance request you had done online. It just wasn't fully completed. Was that because of like price, or did you just kind of run out of time doing it?
Kind of a mixture of both.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, a lot of my clients don't finish it just because of either like pricing or they just really ran out of time. But real quick, just before we go, Paul, I do have about 103 carriers here in the state that I work with. Ethos is just one of them. And so what I usually do for you, Paul, I just narrow those down to a handful. Out of that handful, we find the one that would get you the lowest rate. Now, assuming we're able to do that when we do both have the time for it, would that be possibly helpful for you in any way?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then from there, I'll try to go for it right then and there and say, okay, they ask that we put aside about 15, 20 minutes for this. Do you have the time now? And then
I don't right now.
Gotcha. Okay, Paul, so what we'll do, I'll actually be able to send you out a text and an email. That's going to have my national producer number. It's going to have my personal phone number, my LinkedIn, so you can go check that out. I'll shoot you that text and email out, but if you can pull up your calendar, I'm going to pull up mine as well. That way you don't have to chase me down and vice versa. We can find a time that works for the both of us. I do have some time later tonight, and then I'm looking at my calendar for tomorrow as well. Do you know when might work best for you, Paul?
Tomorrow night at 9.
Tomorrow night, okay. And then is this just so I can kind of understand and make sure I have all your questions answered when we do talk tomorrow at 9? Is this for like your family member? I mean, are you single, married, divorced? What's that look like for you?
Married with kids.
Okay, gotcha. And is your wife a decision maker in this at all, or like would she want to be there as well?
She makes me call her daddy.
Okay. Yeah, and it shouldn't have to be there, Paul. I just would like her to know exactly how these plans pay out, just so on the day of her life, of course, she would know how this works. And so will she be around tomorrow at 9?
Yeah, she will be.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually shoot this out for tomorrow at 9. If you can actually grab something and write it down or put it in your calendar as well, Paul, because I am going to be saying yes to you and no to somebody else. I'm sure you can understand. So I just want to make sure you can make that. And I'm going to go ahead and shoot you that text and that email. Okay.
Perfect. All right. Now let's say they said, yes, I have time right now.
Yeah. So Paul, what I'll do, they asked if we put about 15 to 20 minutes aside. So hopefully that doesn't take up too much. If that wouldn't be a problem for you.
Yeah, I got time.
Okay, awesome. So first thing I'm going to do here, I'll actually shoot you a text, Paul, from my personal phone number. It's going to have my first and last name as well as my national producer number. Now that's important because that's like a business social security for insurance, showing I'm in good standing, taking good care of all my clients. That way you can feel comfortable working with me. I'm going to shoot you that over now. Just let me know once you get that, okay?
Perfect. Got it.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. So everything, Paul, is going to be based on your age, height, weight, medication, stuff like that. So what I'll do is go through some health questions, see what carrier might be able to approve you, then just some financial questions. Now that's just to determine how much coverage is you need, Paul, rather than just what you're wanting. But my goals with you are going to be simple. It's going to be to show you something you qualify for, show you something you can afford, and show you something you completely understand. Assuming we can accomplish those 3 things, all we'd be able to do, Paul, is just submit an application to see if you can even get the coverage. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Now just to kind of start us off, and then I'll go into their health questions. Next, after the health questions, I'll go into a deep dive into their financial inventory. People give me shit, but I go probably spend about 10, 15 minutes on this section because this is not only going to help you avoid objections at the very end of the presentation when you're wrapping up, getting banking, social, all that, but it does something to the client because it makes them extra comfortable with you because you're now actually kind of like a financial planner for them. And then at the end, I recap everything in 45 seconds. So I'll tell them again, I'm the only person you're working with from this point going forward. And so I just want to tell you, just be careful out there. There's a lot of bad agents running around, just like any industry, just like our world today. A lot of bad people. I don't want a local sales rep or some person just try to pull a quick one on you. So if it's not coming from my phone number directly, just be aware that it will be only my phone number if we actually need to change something with your policy or if I have any questions for you. And so I'm your only agent here for you Monday to Sunday. What I want you to do real quick, Paul, before we go, I want you to save my personal phone number and your phone as insurance guy. And 10 months from now, you'll forget my name. So go ahead and actually save that in your phone number. Let me know when you do it. And the policy packet's going to be at your house within 7 to 14 business days. And so I will actually shoot you a text after this with all the stuff we went over, just so you can have that before the policy packet comes. And then after the call, I'll make sure I actually text them that. And then I'll wrap it up and say, hey, do you have any questions for me at all? No, I don't. Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm here for you. Like I said, let me know if you do have any questions. That policy will be starting here in the next 2 to 3 days. You'll see that first payment come out. It was a pleasure getting you guys protected. I'm excited for you guys.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks, man. Man, really
100%,
appreciate
100%.
you coming on board and sharing all that information. And man, you know me, man. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you, brother.